Listen up.
Welcome to the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. And now, here's your host, Andrew Plaw.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the PowerShell Podcast. And we have a very exciting interview in store for you today where we're going to learn about community, learn about very exciting PowerShell events coming up, get into some event logs, and more. But before that, I got some resources to tell you about some cool blogs that have come out in the past week. Shout out to Customized SharePoint Lists with PnP PowerShell by spguides.com. There is also a blog on Get Microsoft 365 users that are registered with different MFA methods with PowerShell. And, we'll talk about it more, but check out PowerShell Saturday NC.com. You might see me there, along with a lot of other great content, which we will explore with our esteemed guest. I want to give a shout out to a video from PowerShell Summit. I love highlighting these. There's a lot of great content from Summit and PSConf EU. And this is How to Tame the Event Log Beast with Phil Bossman. So if you want to dive deeper into some of the things you're going to hear us talk about on the show, I have a link for you in our show notes. Exciting event coming up, the Gainesville PowerShell User Group. Yours truly will be presenting August 29th at 5:45 p.m. I'm going to be talking about exploring PS koans to learn PowerShell. Should be really fun. I love that project. Shout out to Rain for putting that together. It's a great way to learn PowerShell, VS Code, Pester, Git, and GitHub just a little bit as well. So very cool project there. Looking forward to giving that talk. We have some exciting news. So a while ago, we launched the PowerShell Podcast Community Awards. Stephen Judd was our first winner. And I wanted to have this as a way to celebrate people who maybe didn't get the MVP and are maybe very deserving. And I have a nomination and a deserving winner, and that's Simon Schutze. And apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he is the maintainer of the VS Teams module and former organizer of the Azure Meetup Berlin. If you've used the VS Teams module a lot, you have him to thank. I think it was originally put on by Donovan Brown, but now maintained by him. And so thank you to Mark Ragg for the nomination, and well-deserved, Simon. Congratulations. So if you see Simon, I'll have some links to his stuff. Give him a thank you. Say hello. Connect with him on socials. Wherever you are, find where he is and say, thank you, good sir. I want to introduce our guest of the show. That is one Phil Bossman, recently minted Microsoft MVP and confirmed, I just did the math, you have the strongest last name in the PowerShell community. How does that feel? I mean, really?
I've always been the boss man, and so that's it is. It's the boss man.
The boss man's here.
The boss man is in the house.
I mean, it just rolls off the tongue a lot better than Pla. So I'm pretty jealous there. Also pretty easy to spell, right? Boss man, one word.
Yeah. It's not Bossman. It's boss man. Bossman.
That's right. Well, welcome to the podcast, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's exciting. It's a fun night.
You live in the PowerShell world, don't you? I mean, it seems like all the time you got something cooking up.
Yeah. I think it's just fun. Yeah, that's it. I find enjoyment out of it the whole time. And, I think it's fun.
I think we share that. I think many people we talk to on the show, they enjoy the whole giving back and learning and growing by teaching and connecting with other people who share the same passions. It's one of my favorite things about this community is that we are so geared toward growing together. And it's a lot easier and more fun to grow together.
Yep.
And it's been fun growing with you over the years, man. It's cool to see. You got PowerShell Saturday NC coming.
Yep.
Can you give me a little bit of information about that? You heard my plug. I gave it a little plug. I read your spiel. It was pretty good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Basically, PowerShell Saturday is it's going to be a fun event. It is going to be an entire Saturday event. So meaning that we have speakers from basically all over the country at this point. So we have, Sean Wheeler, Stephen Judd's going to be there. Stevie Koster's going to be there. We have Frank Lesniak. I think it's saying Frank Lesniak is going to do. He's going to do some fun stuff. I like his stuff. But then also he's got some of his other people come in and we're going to do it. And we have some local people, which I'm super, super excited about because that's what I really want to get is the local community involved. And so we got a security talk. We have a newbie going to do a talk, which is I'm super excited about that one too. So she hasn't been doing PowerShell very long, but hey, she's just getting out there and hey, let's try this. People have been encouraging her, and here she comes. She's not going to tell you all the things that here's the proper way to do it. Here's how I did it, and that's really the magic of doing things like that. Is I want to see how did you do it because then I can learn that lesson on what did you learn. And so I'm super excited about that talk.
Yeah, it's very helpful to see people with all different perspectives. I I find a lot more value in conferences that don't only offer the elite level of like best practice, been doing this for 10 years. I enjoy seeing that new perspective. Helps me learn things. So very cool to see. And also it's important to foster that next generation.
Well, I also think it's so much, not so much, I don't want it to be training. I want it to be an exposure. Hey, there was this module that I never got into and I never could play into. Like, oh, but that's what you're doing with it. And so I want to see those like SQL DBA stuff. And there's going to be a DBA talk too. Those SQL stuff, and along with, because I'm not a SQL guy at all, but the idea, like, and so again, Neha, she's going to do a great job, and she's going to talk about sending emails using Mailosaur. That I can't remember his name right now. I'll find a link for it. But that's what she's going to do a talk on. Basically, she was a summer intern and started learning PowerShell, and then she had to build a project, and she's going to demo the project. She's like, that's awesome. So that's super excited about that. So I just love the community and the involvement there. So that's what's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a great chance. If you have the opportunity to speak, put yourself out there. You don't have to know everything about all different parts of PowerShell. If you've done something with PowerShell, share what you've done. Share your approach, share what you've learned. You don't have to be rewriting Azure. There's many different ways. And I think that's one thing we might highlight later on the episode is that, a lot of times on the podcast, we highlight the latest and greatest, but that's not what everyone's always working on out there. I think the majority of people are in the day-to-day working with things like event logs, being a lot more hands-on on the more sysadmin side of things. So yeah, awesome stuff there. Now, what's the cost? Because, budget's a concern. How much is this event?
So the event is actually $75 for all day Saturday. So it's $75 for, you're going to get food, you're going to get, entertainment effectively. So you're going to have breakfast, lunch, you're going to have snacks, a bunch of stuff. So effectively, you're basically covering costs, and that's what it is. And so $75 ticket is just basically covering costs at that point. And then we're going to have a second day. So it's going to, you're going to do a Saturday as well. A Sunday as well. And so that is going to be more of a deep dive. So let's go back. Saturday is going to be, I can't even think, 13, 14.
Tracks, tracks. Regular conference talks.
45-minute tracks. It's a potpourri of content. So you're going to have this and that. You're going to go from all over the place, right? And then Saturday is going to be more in-depth, deep dive content offered by Sean Wheeler, documentarian for PowerShell team, along with Stephen Judd, who's community winner. Like, these guys who can certainly share content for an extended period of time. So that's going to be our Sunday event, and it's going to be more deep dive. And so that's going to be the content at that point.
Nice. I'm excited for this. This is it's in my neck of the woods, sort of. So no matter what, I'm going to do what I can to attend.
It's only 8 hours. It's fine. You're good.
I mean, I've
driven that many times.
Oh, I think I'm going to fly. But
you can go.
I could. And here's what I'd say is if you're interested in going, get your tickets sooner than later.
Yes.
Especially with how affordable they are. And it's cool to see how affordable they are because I've definitely seen for a lot of people, events can be a profit center, which makes sense if you're going to do it year over year and dedicate resources. But I love the community events where it's all about the people. The people who end up showing up, the speakers, they're a lot more engaged because it's just a community event. Like, that is the focus. And that is definitely what your RTP SUG, in my opinion, really highlights, is the emphasis on community, which is what I'm all about. So, my people.
I think that's what's been the core of what our group has been for so many years, is community, and it's all about the community. And I've talked, to even multiple other user groups. People say, "How are you guys so successful?" You got to meet the community where they are. Like, what do they want to see? Is not, "Hey, I want to do this because it's for my own good." Partly it's for your own good, but I just love all content. So, but when we're doing events, we've done so many lightning demos, and we've kind of talked about lightning demos in the past, but this idea of it's all about bringing the community and what are you working on? What are you working on? And also, hey, this is what I found was cool in the environment. So that's just fun. And that's really, we actually do lightning demos at least 3 times a year, if not 4 times a year. And so, because we want the community to get involved. And we want to see all the things that the community can do. And we've had some really great content, and you've even been a product of some of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the lightning demos are freaking awesome. Just such a great opportunity for people to learn new things in a quick format where you like what you see, you can dive deeper. You don't have to invest a ton of time, but also it's just such a great exposure opportunity. I'm always harping about how people should find their next step. And for many people, the next step of doing a 10-minute talk is a lot more digestible than preparing for a full talk or whatever. You can always build up to that, but it's great to have those smaller steps along the way.
Absolutely. And the feedback's really easy to get over. Like by the time you start, it's all over. And then, hey, the community is also phenomenal in the regard of everybody's so encouraging. And there's feedback and not negative feedback in any form. It's all feedback in good.
Any talks you're looking forward to? And I want to say shout out to Danny Stutz. I believe he's going to be attending as well with Frank.
Danny Stutz, he's going to talk to.
Yes.
I don't know what that one's going to be. So I'm super excited about Nihas because that's the one I'm just super excited about because it's really, it's going to be a practical demo, right? It's going to be, hey, here's how somebody from the community solved their problem, not so much a training. And that's what I really enjoy out of this is how did somebody else interact with PowerShell? And so that's really when I'm teaching is how can it relate to you and how can it work for the person? How did it relate to them? Because I look at PowerShell and I see so much, and especially with the people who are new to PowerShell, their idea is that I'm not sure where I can start. And I'm the opinion, well, you start with a simple problem and then just work through that problem. So, and that's what it's all about.
Nice. Well, hopefully I can convince her to join the podcast. Maybe don't want to put on too much too soon, but I'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll meet her in person and talk about the experience and share it with the audience here.
Hopefully.
That'd be sweet. Well, you got me hyped up. Kind of holds me over till Summit next year. Get to see all my people. Learn some new PowerShell stuff. Talking about PowerShell stuff, man. Event logs. That's kind of your thing. You've kind of made a name for yourself year over year at Summit. I guess you're doing it on the day job too.
I do it in the day job, but it's more of let me think about how to explain how I can see PowerShell and event logs. So event logs is everybody knows how to go look inside of, hey, look in the event viewer and find what you're looking for. Well, I look at it and going, hey, it's just another stream of data. And so if I know how to use that stream of data, I can then parse that data effectively. And so that's really been the where. And so again, my talk was about, taming the event log beast, is that there's just so much information inside of there, or it just streams by so fast. Or the reverse is that what I do typically in a normal day is I do it at scale, meaning that, part of my day job is a Citrix engineer. And so I have to manage well over 200, 300 servers at a time. Well, if something's happening, it's typically happening across 300 servers. So you can't just open the event log on 300 different servers. So I can reach out and go get the events that I'm looking for on all 300 servers at scale and pull that data back. Or in some of the talks is go get the data over there and send me just the relevant data back. And then I can parse it. And then the idea last with parsing, well, then all the other, or if you're familiar with PowerShell and the idea, is that you can then inject that into other things. Oh, well, then I'm going to stick it into a CSV. No, I don't want a CSV. Import Excel. I can now make an Excel document that does all the pieces I'm looking for. Or, hey, I can do event log filtering. Hey, it's just a bunch of XML. So now, again, I'm working with PowerShell. I'm just dumping XMLs and where I need to be. So it just use the other skills in different places to then get a bunch of other stuff. And so that's really the magic at that point.
I think so too. I think that event logs are something that many of us interact with. And just like so many other parts of PowerShell, when you use PowerShell to interact with things like this, you end up finding a lot about the technology under the covers. Because anybody can click around in an event viewer and maybe find a thing or two for one or two problems that you're currently looking at. Doesn't scale very well. When you're able to actually interact and dive deeper and create these solutions, you're able to actually understand what's going on under the hoods, and it's not magic anymore, which is what PowerShell, the biggest thing, I can't say the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things it's given me is the ability to actually understand what the heck is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you can also then interact with the system, but also make change in the system. I can then change things in my environment based upon what I've learned and react to it effectively. And so, because now you have the tooling to then do other things. So, get event logs, get when event is something just to get stuff. But then what I also want to do is when something happens, I want to do something. And so again, we're just stepping through the iterative process of PowerShell at that point is that, hey, I can go and get some stuff, but then a lot of times there's a set or there's a do or there's all that other stuff. Hey, we're just taking the next progression along the way and let's go do something about that. Hey, I want to fire off an email. Okay, I can do that, right? I want to do something else. I want to lock an account. I want to do some other work. I want to, hey, if these events happen, if I get a high CPU, I want to then take all of the, I want to query the environment, query all the processes on this server. I then want to set them all the priority to low. That way, that one high CPU doesn't crush the rest of the machine. Boom, real simple. So when this event happens, now I get this, and now I can take action. Full stop. Without any automation, full stop.
Such a fun journey. Always start with the gets. You can start poking at things and understanding stuff. And then you're a little bit familiar. You change the get for a set, maybe a couple parameters here and there, and you're all of a sudden able to do a lot more. And it really, man, it's just so great how it can change the way you approach problems in your environment. And we always talk about, you want to learn PowerShell find an excuse. Interacting with event logs is likely something you have in your environment that you can get value out of. Find the problems, find where they're popping up within Event Viewer, and track it down with PowerShell. And I want to pose a situation that we might have talked about a little bit, but how do you handle account lockouts, right? Because that's a little bit of event log and you can do some stuff with that. But I think that's a very common situation that many who are dealing with on-prem stuff will see is going to be AD lockouts. So,
yeah. So, one of the ways, and the actual funny thing is that how I got into using event logs effectively was hunting that problem down. And so I worked in a large environment where people got locked all the time. And if you know how AD works, a lockout actually generates where the failed login only happens, that event only exists on the DC that you're looking for, where it happened. And then it forwards the lock to the PDC. And so the PDC, now you see it, and that's all you see. And so when you look it up, you got to go find the DC that actually did it. So my process, query all the DCs, figure out where the failed login for that user. So an event log happens. A lock happens. So I now need to parse that event, figure out who the user was. Then I can go back a little further, effectively either one or two back from that. On one of the DCs that I was on is going to have the failed login, which then tells you what the computer was that actually failed the login. Now I can go back the other way. So full stop. There are tooling out there that will do this, Change Auditor, Quest has some products, a bunch of other stuff. People sell products to do this, but they sell it for money. Or you can roll your own and you can just do it on the cheap. And so that's the best way.
And learn while you're doing it. And
yeah.
You can alter things. You have control over it. You can put this feather in your hat, move on to the next project, gain some confidence, gain some trust, both within yourself and within your org, and take things to the next level.
And even just apply it. Hey, locking events is one thing, but you can look for any event you're looking for. And so if you know what you're, know what you're looking for, hey, go tell me. So now what's another thing? Hey, I want to look for login events for RDP. So who's logged into what servers? Okay, that's easy to query. That's in the terminal services log. Well, that's the event. Tell me every single time a domain admin logs into any computer, wherever it is. They should not be logging in domain admins anywhere, or tell me where this one account is logged. Where is logged in? Oop, I can find that out too. So when that event happens, react upon it. And so you can get your own kind of eventing happens, but that's action after the fact. But you can even just go query. Go tell me every time somebody logged in. When was somebody logged in last week? I don't know. Go look in the event logs. It'll tell you.
And then you can create tools that kind of wrap the stuff up and are reusable, create your own module, share it with your coworkers, and all of a sudden you're a PowerShell toolmaker. You were just a sysadmin or just person doing stuff, and now all of a sudden you have this great tool set that you can continue building on and doing bigger and better things.
So let me kind of stop you, but kind of talk a little bit more about the idea of some people say, oh, I'm going to create a module. Think of the module just as your own version of whatever that is. And so one of the things that I've written many years ago is get my AD tools, which is effectively just a huge wrapper around the AD tools. I also have one for the event logs. So the module is nothing more than all the existing stuff with my own parameters just built in. And so the example being, hey, get AD user. No, that you can't put in their last name. You can't use wildcards. Well, my module can, just because it's just wrapping that one. So I just wrap my own stuff. And so the barrier entry is very small. Hey, if you can write one little line that says, hey, I'm going to, put a wildcard here, and then I can run that script at one line, well, then I can just parameterize it. And now I have an entire module that all it does is not doing this big thing I'm going to mass produce and share with the community at all. It's all your own stuff. And it's just my version of that, or just my own parameters on top of it. So I think that's the easiest thing to get some people involved is that you have one little problem that's solving your thing. Well, make it easy for you to use. Like take your own module is just my version of that commandlet.
I see a lot of people who are wanting to learn PowerShell and who are plugging away at things, but they often don't find that use case to really push through. Do you see that a lot? Where do you, because I know you have a very popular user group, a lot of people go there of all skill levels, a lot of engagement. Where do you see the beginners kind of getting stuck with things?
I think their struggle is partly figuring out the paradigm and how to get started. Really, I think once they get past the Trinity, we all know what the Trinity, if you've been in the community long enough, is once I teach them that lesson, I think they're effectively on their own, and then it's just how fast they want to run and walk, and from there. And so getting past getting past the idea that PowerShell is this discoverable entity, and hey, you know what? I even talk to them and say, hey, you know what? I don't know what half this stuff does, but I don't really care to know. I know to go how to find it, and that's what I want to teach you. So I don't want to teach you PowerShell or send you the right direction. I simply want to teach you what direction to go look for it, right? And with some of the other stuff is like, I try to teach them, but to tell them what the right things is to search for. It's like, hey, my Google food is just a lot better than yours. That's all it is. And I've been around the block long enough. And so I know what I'm looking for. Hey, I'm trying to do this, but I'm just using the wrong words. And so when I'm looking it up, I'm getting all this crazy stuff that doesn't make sense to me. Well, these are the right words that you should be looking for. And that's really where I think some people can get the most bang for their buck.
I see a lot of people who could benefit from mentorship or just having someone to give them one or two sentences of direction. I wish more people at that beginner phase would find someone to reach out to in the community, to bounce ideas off of, to grow together, to get those clarifying questions. So you're not just stuck in that box of like, how do I start? What do I do? I know get command, I know get member, I know get help, but tying it together can be a next order task for the brain at first. But if someone can break that down just a little bit, they are consumable pieces. It's just that initial, how do I approach things? I see people throw people off sometimes.
Well, I want to say is that, you should definitely engage with a local user group community. And certainly the Research Triangle PowerShell user group is here for you. So now here's some more about the group itself. So prior to the meeting and immediately after the meeting is always, we have kind of a 30 minutes prior to the meeting is kind of like, hey, what's everybody doing and things kind of thing. And that's the time for people to ask questions. And we've had some phenomenal conversations about, hey, I was trying to do this, and then we're 20 minutes into the meeting and we're pushing back the presenter just because we're just deep into this person's topic. Or at the very end, now the meeting's over, hey, recording goes off, and now it's, hey, I'm having this thing. All right, you want to share? Here we go. And we've talked for 45 minutes, actually, I don't want to say tearing apart this gentleman's code, but the idea is that, hey, he was trying to achieve this process, and then we just took it to, wherever. And actually, I think I mentioned it in one of the talks that I just recently did, was this whole how to parallelize your functions. And so that's what he needed to do. He was just querying AD, but he needed to do it at scale. I want to just take this one function that I wrote, but I want to do it, in parallel. How do I take what I have and make it in parallel? And that's what we did. And hey, how about this? Let's try that. Let's try that. And he learned a ton of information, but it's just that these veterans who are just absolutely here to help you, and just come, and we will just pour out exactly what you need to do. Or not even exactly. Here's ideas to get you in the next direction. And so come to a user group and we will absolutely help you, and we will, direct you. So if you're kind of hesitant, before, after, even reach out in different forms, we're here for you. I'm always in the community.
Yep. And that's what it's all about. And I can say, as someone who does share that experience with others, like, you love the experience of sharing something you've learned with someone else and it meets their need. It is such a rewarding feeling, because guess what? We've been there and we've banged our head against the wall to learn the things. And for me, I wish I could go back and ask for help sooner. Like eventually I found the light and figured out that asking for help and communicating and sharing what I'm learning is the way to do it. But the sooner you can do that, you will benefit so greatly. I think a lot of the guests I talk to end up saying that they wish they would have gotten involved sooner. They wish they would have put their stuff out there. Being stuck in that spot of like sort of afraid, sort of concerned is very normal. I was in that spot for a long time, but the sooner you can get out of it, the better. And I'll add that, my DMs are always open. If anybody out there is looking to connect, looking for what they should do next, always happy to chat with people, always happy to introduce you to other people. If you're feeling shy, I'm happy to attend a user group with you. RTP Sug's always there for you. The best community in the world. That's the PowerShell community. Well,
Absolutely.
One of the best. I haven't been in every community, but it's a pretty doggone good one.
Absolutely. But I also want to also say,
no, you go.
Is that even if you're a veteran, you can still ask those things. So you know other people. Now, I've been doing it for many, many years, and I think I get as far as PowerShell process, but then how do other people achieve that same goal? And so that's also where I really find value in just engaging with like Sean Wheeler or even Steven. Like, how are you solving that problem? Because granted, I can absorb what he's doing a lot faster than someone brand new, but it expands my knowledge. So even those people who are brand new, yes, we're here for you. We're going to want to help you. But even those people who feel like they've been around a long time, they don't have anything to learn, you definitely have stuff to learn. And here it is. And it's just, it just brings me joy so much when I just see like some of the stuff and just watch, like you said many times, I'm just going to watch Josh King's talk. I want to watch, Justin Grody. Holy mackerel. Those guys just can do a bunch of stuff. But also, if you talk to them, they're learning stuff from us too. And so that's the best part about this community.
Also, added benefit, when you can watch these people who have a lot of experience, even just the way they navigate VS Code, the way they approach things, there's so many little things you can learn. Shout out to Josh King. He was one of those very impactful people. I remember waking up at 4 a.m. because he's in New Zealand. I'd wake up super early to watch his streams just to kind of, wow, this is really what coding is. He wasn't doing anything super fancy, but at the time, I'd never seen anyone put commands together, write functions. I knew how to do it, but hadn't seen it in practice. You can see someone presenting. You can see how they approach things, how they communicate ideas. You can take those learnings with you to work and feel a little bit more confident in the way you communicate with your team and try and share ideas and do that kind of thing. There's a lot you can learn from other people, even just outside of the PowerShell thing, that can be transformative for your career.
Absolutely.
I love that, man. Well, you've been plugging away at the PowerShell community for a super long time, right? How long? When did you really start doing your involvement? And also, I want to say on those calls, you were so good during your RTP Sug meetings at asking good questions that provide insight for those people who aren't willing to ask questions or who are maybe think they're too far lost to even ask a question. The way you're able to get the speakers to address those things is very impressive. So kudos to you.
We worked really hard about that because, when we first started, there was a gentleman who actually, the fact that he did it was almost like an eye-opening experience for me. Is he stopped the mid-meeting? Granted, we were in a meeting directly, and he just basically stopped it and goes, "Hey, does everybody understand what he just did right there?" Because he acknowledged, he knew that, wait, that event right there, or whatever he was talking about, is going to go over so many people in the room. I at least understood enough about everybody else in the room that they're not going to absorb what's happening. And so I take an active effort to try and engage with the community, especially with our meetings, is like, does everybody understand what's happening here? Or can I translate what's happening in the meeting down for the community itself? And so, Mike and a bunch of other people have shared that that's one of the things that's been valuable for me, and especially in the community, is this, I try to engage with the community and understand where they come from. And so when we have meetings and stuff like that, I'll want to engage with them. What is your background? Where are you at? So that subconsciously, I now know that, hey, here's who's in the room. And then if we go to 500 level, okay, we're kind of good. We're going to ask 500 level questions. Or if people in the room are 101s, all right, we're going to slow this way thing down, not for them, but just so that we don't just, let them drown, because that is not the community we live in. We're not here to drown people. And that's really the value there.
Yep. It can be easy to fall into that, high level PowerShell people only talking super high level, only benefiting the others, but that is not the best approach. And I have had so much benefit from asking questions in work situations as well, in meetings, rather than just being quiet and having everyone act like they know everything, getting to the point where you're asking questions. And it works even better if you have respect on the team, like you are known to be able to do some good work, and you're able to be humble and honest, and you sort of pave that pathway for others to ask questions and show it as like, hey, this is a collaborative space. This is not a everybody shows up knowing all the answers, because that's just not realistic. And that frees you up in your work life to be who you are and to be honest with yourself and with others. And to me, that's one of the biggest improvements I've had in my career, is just the ability to be honest. And that can kind of set the tone for others on your team. And all of a sudden, you don't have to work in this prison where you have to always be the expert on everything.
Well, certainly for those who are, been expert in a while, they should, try and have this empathy for those who not potentially don't have that experience, but an empathy to try and bring them to where they can relate. Because it serves nobody if you're simply just talking over everybody's head.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the spot where every single thing you say is just accepted as the right solution. Like that sort of puts you in a little bit of a trap. You want to have others around you capable of asking questions and comfortable with it, knowing that you're not going to lash out or anything like that, and it's a safe environment. It's the way to go about it. I'm big on like workplace dynamics and making your team better, because you got to work with these people every day. The better your vibe can be, the better your culture can be, the better you'll be, and those around you. But
yeah, good stuff.
Fun stuff, man. It's fun how it's just a PowerShell. It's a programming language. We just code. It's so much more than that. And it can lead to such a joyous process, like of growth as a person, the way you approach problems, the way you handle communication, the way you automate your problems away. And then you get to a point where you're fluent with PowerShell too, and it's just so much fun. And then you have this emphasis on process improvement and making things better. And you realize part of that is making the process of learning PowerShell easier for others. And I think that's a space that you spend a lot of time in, is like realizing like, hey, there's some inefficiencies in how people are going about learning PowerShell. We can make that better. And I think you live in that space.
Yes.
And that's a great thing to see. And I think that it's led to some professional success for you, Mr. MVP. So being community oriented isn't just all about others. I mean, it's a great approach, but it also leads to benefits for the person who is giving to others.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's cool to see, man. It's awesome that it's not just like one or two of us who are kind of seeing this approach. It is many of us. It is the community itself is driven by this understanding and idea. And you see it here in the States, you see it PSConf, you see it all over the place in the PowerShell world. So yeah. Let's talk about that MVP stuff though, man. Congrats, dude. That's huge.
Thank you. I don't know. I'm excited about, being awarded the MVP. I think, in some fashion, it's an acknowledgement of the hard work that I've done. And I say it's hard work, but it's the most fun hard work I've done, for the community. But also it just says, okay, well, let's do some more, right? And it's empowered me to do some more. And now that's also the fun part, is because then you're going to get some exposure into things that you didn't have before. And so now I'm looking forward to that. Now, granted, I've been an MVP for a couple of weeks effectively a couple of weeks. So I'm not really sure what I can do with it at this point, but I'm just super excited that so what I think I can do with it. And so you'll see some great things coming next year. This year coming.
Nice. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. A lot of things on the back burner that I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll do that. But now that I got some, I got MVP cred, I think I'm going to actually, execute. So that'd be fun.
Nice. Did you update any of your bios on any socials to say Microsoft MVP?
Yeah. And of course, you got to do that just because, that is, you're going to do yourself disservice if you don't do that too, because what are you doing it for? And ultimately it is there to like, you do it, you're awarded the MVP because of your community involvement. But if you're not about, sharing with the community anyway, then what's the whole purpose anyway? And so that's really, so you have to, represent that, hey, I'm an MVP, but on top of that is that be an MVP from that. So that's where I'm looking at.
Whenever I created I don't want to say created, it wasn't that much, but whenever I had the idea for the PowerShell Podcast Community Awards, you were one of the people I had in mind, because to me, you just represent what this community really is about day in and day out. Often, well, I won't say thankless, because I think that you've been very respected in the community for a while, but that is really what it's all about to me. It's the people who really make the community go. And you are one of those. You live and lead it for so long. It is so awesome to see. I've learned a lot from you. You're very inspirational.
Thank you.
It's good to see, man.
I think even the mentorship too. Like I really enjoy the mentorship of that. And so, you'd mentioned, hey, if DMs are open, I'm here too. But I remember that conversation we had at PowerShell on the River at that, I don't know, it was a bar or something. But you were like, hey, I so want to do this stuff. I'm like, come on, you got to get involved. You got to start a user group meeting. You got to start all that. And what happened? You started a Gainesville group, and like the world's crazy.
Yeah, it's just one step at a time. That's all it is. You got to find your next little step. And I took a lot of small steps. And then all of a sudden, the small steps, they're behind you. You're already on top of the wall a little bit, and there's more steps to go. And it never ends. And it's rewarding each step of the way. I can truthfully say that I have enjoyed the whole journey. And hopefully people have some insight. I think we've interviewed a bunch of people who've started from zero. Like Clayton Tiger was nobody in the community, put in all the work, took all the small steps, got a Microsoft MVP, doing a lot of great things. That journey's out there for you if you're interested in it. I wouldn't look to just getting the MVP. It's about the growth. It's about the helping others. Good things will come along with that, but it is a fun spot to be, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I got some questions for you. You might have answered these a couple times, but I'm going to start with a weird one.
Okay.
If you were a grunge song from the 90s, is this out of your wheelhouse? All right. Any 90s song.
All right. So it's funny you say a grunge song. I'm not a grunge person. Like back in even the early 90s, I was a country boy. I was from Davie, Florida, home of the Davie Rodeo. I drove a pickup truck and that kind of thing. That's what I wrote. Give me
a country banger. What's a country banger from the 90s?
Like Low Places by Garth Brooks, that's what I'm not. That's what I'm all about,
Yes.
Or, Tim McGraw, Don't Take the Girl. That's me.
Oh gosh. Yes. Yes. I know that one so well. Oh gosh.
It's hilarious. Or, I sang that song to my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife at, the local, oh my God, it was like the Riverwalk kind of thing. They're doing karaoke. I'm like, all right, I'm going to sing you a song. Sat her down and I sang, Don't Take the Girl. She's laughing. Oh my God, it's hilarious. But yeah, Don't Take the Girl by Tim McGraw, or Low Places by Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
Classic.
All right, I'll be listening to those as soon as we get off.
Yeah, man. I'm a country boy.
Event logs. I want to trigger a PowerShell script on a Windows event. What command should I be looking at?
You want to trigger a PowerShell script on event? So you need to actually use WMI, which is actually the Windows event log handlers. So you can actually, what will happen is there is an event watcher. And so kind of related to all this stuff is, hey, you want to trigger a Windows event. You want to, on a Windows event, you then want to trigger a script. So you need to use WMI, watch the event log, and then actually call the script from there. So that's the work you're going to do. And so that's you're going to just register event. So the ultimate commandlet is register event object.
Object event.
Object event. Sorry, reverse. So object event, that's the code itself. But also with that is you can watch anything. You can watch file systems. You can watch, actually, mostly events and file systems are the only things to do. So you can actually use that same concept, which I've used as well, is to actually, if somebody puts a file in a location, call it a Windows event. So that's also, a little nugget for anybody else. So
little honeypot.
Yeah. Well, no. So again, I'm a system engineer. What do you want to do? I want to call a PowerShell script when somebody drops a file in that location. What's that for? I want to read that file and then do some more work. Or kind of reverse is, we actually did this at work a couple of months ago, is that, hey, they have an overhead monitor that's just basically playing a PowerPoint presentation. All right, so that's kind of fun. And then this other team, like, the admin secretary, is going to update the PowerPoint presentation. So she does it and she saves the file. Well, that save file, I watch that for that save, and then it calls a button, replicates that out to all of the displays, which then copy over the file in it and now refresh the computer, which now, hey, is playing the new PowerPoint presentation. All because she saved that one file over on that network share, and boom, there it goes. So that's other events. But once you get into events, it's a lot of fun. You can do a lot with it.
So you're using a file watcher to start automations.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about that process just a little bit. So you have this a script that kicks off whenever a non-IT user, maybe we'll say, puts a certain, we'll say a CSV file in a certain location.
Mhm.
Are you using any way of communicating that a script kicked off, or are you just letting it all go in the background, maybe like webhooks to Teams or something like that, or
No,
no
no.
emails
So
at the end or
similar
anything?
to the event thing. So what you're going to create is the watcher, an object. So you create the watcher object, be it an event watcher, be it a file watcher. And so you're creating that, and then you register that event on wherever you're doing that work. And so whatever's watching that file or watching the file. So now at boot time, this computer watches for that file to change. And it just sits there indefinitely, never stops. So it's just a while loop and waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
So if you look at the process monitor on that machine, hey, the process is just sitting there waiting indefinitely. And so it's just sitting there watching and watching and watching until something happens.
And I guess my question was, when something does happen, do you push that anywhere? Do you give yourself insight that some script is taking off, or do you just kind of let it do its thing and just rock?
Personally, I just let it rock because I don't really care that it called off because I'm waiting for the action. If I needed to then, depending upon what it wanted, if you needed to log that it was doing work, or if you needed to log and throw errors and do other work, that would be after action. That would basically be on what the requirements are for the problem set that you're working on. Now, the fact that it's not updating, I don't really care because what we were doing before is the file gets written, but I'm copying my own copy so that I don't have to worry about file locking problems or anything like that. I simply copy whatever's there. And now I have my own copy over here that I can then, start the PowerPoint presentation. And so I copy my own copy and leave that one just there. But has it been updated? I don't know. I just wait for it to update. And so once I'm looking at it, so long as the file hasn't changed since I've looked at it, I'm good to go.
I asked because I remember initially whenever I was getting into PowerShell and automating things, I would have some trust that it worked, but not enough. So I liked having some kind of email to myself or a webhook notification to Slack or Teams that would tell me like, hey, action was taken on X, Y, and Z. It just made me feel powerful. I'm like, I didn't click a single thing and we got automations kicking off. Now that gets to a certain point where you get too many, but I think initially early on, I had a lot of value in being able to tell myself and also my boss, like, hey, I know I've automated this process. Here's a sanity check. Maybe in the future, we don't need as many, but it is an option you have because if you are just running PowerShell code, you can just run PowerShell code. You can have it do whatever you want.
Whether you want to notify at that point is just a matter of how much noise you want to absorb. And so I have other scripts that run and basically, audit my Azure, licensing. And so it's auditing and it only reports when we're low on a license count at that point. And so I still want to send the message so I know the script is running, or I gave up and went, if there's no, low licenses, well, then don't get me an email. Well, then how much do you trust the fact that I didn't get an email, so we're good when licensing, or the script is not running? So that's just a judgment call on how much you trust the automation that's running, or what's watching the watcher, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think also if you have a way to create tickets, it can be helpful. I've done it in the past where I've created closed tickets to just show that work was done. And then you can look at those tickets at the end of the year and say, okay, every single time we did this report on the licensing, it would have taken me 5 minutes to run manually. Well, we ran it 300 times this year. So we saved X, Y, and Z amount of time. And this is what I've been doing with PowerShell. I'm not just sitting at my computer talking to my friends. I'm actually really working on developing some stuff that scales really well. And it turns you from just an IC to a force multiplier.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fun stuff, man. Coding. So much good. So much good.
Yeah, we can talk code all day.
All day. So much fun. So sometimes something went a little bit haywire, and how'd you fix it?
These are always hard questions as to what's gone haywire. And
no CrowdStrike, I guess.
I was there for CrowdStrike. I was engaged with CrowdStrike, but I think really it's just responding to CrowdStrike and building automation so that, again, I'm in a Citrix environment. Hey, just go reboot the whole place and it comes back to where it needs to be. But all the machines that don't need to go, hey, just do that work. I think the very few stuff has actually broken as a result of me lately, only because, I'm kind of conscious about what I'm trying to do ahead of time. But I think the idea is just trying to acknowledge what the problem is and present what that is. Never hide from the problem, and simply acknowledge this is what happened and this is where we are. And all right, let's come with sane mind. And even if I have to take, 5 minutes and go, okay, I just need to decompress from the problem that just happened. Because I think, we've reacted to, be it security incidents, certainly CrowdStrike. See, CrowdStrike wasn't a security event. I've been reacting to a couple security events in the past, even in my many, many years. And it's that action of, okay, so let's slow this down. And granted, in that time, you can't really slow down, but it's okay. I need to just take a sanity check, and then, all right, come along with, and funny enough, hey, use PowerShell to, how do we figure this out? All right, how do I massively audit my entire environment? How do I massively just lock everything out? How do I massively do that? And I've been invaluable to my organization, and actually all organizations in that fashion. Is just, hey, we're having this thing. All right, let's do this to all accounts right now. Boom, let's go. Not a problem. I got no problem. Boom, go.
It scales well. Love that.
Absolutely. And if you have the skills with PowerShell, is that you understand that if you can do it to one, I can do it to hundreds, and let alone thousands. And hey, you want to do that? Hey, where is this service running, haywire? Where did this patch just go and just crush all of them? All right, I don't know how many machines have the patch. I don't know. I'll let you know in about 15 seconds. Go.
Yep.
Right. And that's been an event we've had by patching. OS patching. Hey, we pushed the wrong patch. All right. And all right, go find them all.
PowerShell, all the things. Even if you're in a smaller org where you don't need that skill, you will benefit from it. And you want to be doing things and building things in the right way, so that if your company does get bigger, you're good. If you have to interview for a job at an org that's bigger, you feel comfortable because it's not like you've allowed yourself to not do things to the best of your abilities and best practice. Yeah.
And I think too, like you said, scale is nothing. I think truly my point with scale is 1 to 10 is the same scale as 1 to 10,000. It's the same. If you can scale to 10,000 is the same.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. And so even if you're in a small organization, hey, I got 9 servers, and I got, actually I don't have servers. You can do desktop work. I got to manage 9 PCs across, this office. There's 2 people in the front, 3 people in the back. I got to manage these 4 computers. That's it. All I got to do. Hey, 4. That's more than 1. Go.
Yep. That is the right approach.
Mm-hmm.
With your knowledge that you have now, community guy, MVP, you got it all. What's one tip you would give to someone who is earlier in their journey, trying to learn PowerShell and reach their next level?
I think really is just, get over yourself, in that, you can't, feeling that, this is not something that I feel like, I think it's gonna be too big for me. That's really the message that I would even, put yourself out there. But that's kind of a hard message to say, put yourself out there, is that, it is attainable no matter where you are, right? And so it will solve small problems and it will solve big problems. But really is the idea is that, what is the adage about, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. One small problem at a time. One quirky thing. And I think really, one of the things you made me think of, what I felt that I got the most out of years ago, is this idea of just get exposure, just watch the environment. I guess weird to say is that, if your mode of operation is like, hey, I want to read Reddit, or I like TikTok, or I like Twitter, whatever it's called nowadays, right? Or even I'm just watching, Stack Exchange kind of stuff, right? Is send yourself a daily, like all of those systems can get you to send daily messages of what's happening. Hey, here's people asking questions in that. And I thought that was the most valuable thing for me when I was younger, is just, hey, somebody's asking this question about how do I change the font on something. All right, I don't know, that's kind of pretty interesting. And it's just exposure. And each one of those was just this lesson of like, how did he do that? And how did he do that? And even now today, I'm now, a veteran, and now I'm asking bigger questions. But even if you're, brand new to the environment, ask the little questions, and you'll get just as much value as the person who's been doing it for 15 years.
Yep. So I think I've asked you a couple times about your favorite modules. I want to ask for a couple favorite commands. Could be from a module, could be built in. I know we mentioned register object event as a pretty cool one.
Mm-hmm. So
what are some commands you like?
One of my favorite commands is actually register argument completer. And so the reason I like argument completers is that you can then take somebody else's code and add your own kind of argument completers to it. Good example being, hey, I want to I register in my profile, I register an argument completer for our Citrix environment. So if I say get desktop and I want to just tab complete the names of all the desktops in my environment, I got 500 of them, right? But I want to simply say, Win10 tab and then let it tab complete all of them for me. Or simply the same thing is get AD group. Now, AD group is an E1. Get my AD group, and it's actually name. And then the first half of the name, and I hit tab, there's the rest of all the possible names of the groups out there. And so that is achieved simply by that one command, register argument completer. So you build the query that's going to generate that, and you can look at it. The docs are there. It's great. So argument completers, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Oh, that is a pretty powerful one. I love argument completers. You're giving me some talk ideas here. I got a couple talk ideas now, so thank you.
Good. I expected it. Hey, we got a user group. You can, I know where you put it.
Hey, let's go. Yeah.
If you need to talk, I'll do one. You got to get one from me.
Deal. We'll get it on the calendar. I'll come up with something.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Phil, for joining us today. And thank you out there for listening. Leave us a like, comment, subscribe. And you know what? Phil, share it with a friend. You got coworkers who maybe they aren't into PowerShell. Get them on the same page as you. Have a lot of great interviews. I've interviewed Phil a couple times now. Check out previous episodes. Mike Kanekos is another RTP SUG veteran leader that we have some great interviews with him as well. Links to those will be in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Phil, people dig the vibe, man. They like the Phil. Where can they find you on the World Wide Web? They want to connect. They want to shoot you a DM and say, hey, Phil, you rock. Where can they hit you up?
On LinkedIn. I'm definitely on LinkedIn now. I'm going to do a lot more content there. You can find me on RTP SUG. So I am the one who posts RTP SUG. So that's probably the easiest place to find me. Come out and join us. I'm always there. On Twitter, I'm Schlauge, SCHLAUGE. What's up, Schlauge? And that's probably where I am. I'm the most known there. I still use Twitter just because I like the community there. And I think the value is just that if you don't, friend idiots, you don't get idiots. You get a lot of spam. You get a lot of ads, but that's the nature of the beast. That's the world we live in. And I think, you'll find some new content. So watch those places, and you'll actually see some more content from me in the coming time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Phil. Always great chatting. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Have a great day. PowerShell all the things. Find your next step. Yep. Brick by brick, you can build a great wall, just like Phil has here.
Yep. Be the community. That's my thing. Be the community.
I like that. You got a tagline too?
I got a tagline. That'll be my tagline on Twitter. You'll see that. You look for that. Those are my posts. Be the community.
Awesome. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.